In the wild, betta fish live in tropical marshes packed with dense vegetation. They rely on that complex, heavily planted environment to feel secure and rest. But when we bring them home, we often fall into what I call the plastic trap. We fill their tanks with stiff artificial decor. Those rigid plastic edges easily tear a betta's delicate, flowing fins. Beyond the physical danger, plastic offers zero biological filtration. Because fake plants don't absorb fish waste, ammonia and nitrates build up. That forces you into a grueling schedule of constant manual water changes and leaves your fish highly vulnerable to disease. Trying to fix this, many beginners swing completely into the high-tech trap. They buy expensive CO2 injection canisters, nutrient-heavy soils, and high-intensity lighting systems. If you don't have the experience to balance that massive influx of light and gas, the system crashes. The expensive plants melt away. Massive algae blooms take over, stressing the entire ecosystem. Neither extreme is practical for most of us. What we actually need is an engineered middle ground. We want the biological filtration and safety of a live marshland, but with the durability of plastic decor. That middle ground is the low-tech planted tank. This approach completely bypasses the need for messy soils or complicated CO2. It relies entirely on a specific botanical category of plants that makes this setup possible: epiphytes. Epiphytes operate differently than standard garden plants. Instead of pulling nutrients from deep root systems buried in dirt, they draw everything they need to survive directly from the water column around them. Two primary, incredibly durable species fit this profile perfectly for an aquarium: Anubias and Java fern. By choosing these specific epiphytes, you create a habitat that filters the water and provides physical cover. They require minimal intervention and directly serve the betta's biological need for shaded resting spots. To keep Anubias and Java fern alive, you must understand the core structural difference between a standard rooted aquarium plant and an epiphyte. It all comes down to a specific part of the plant called the rhizome. This is a thick, horizontal stem that serves as the plant's primary nutrient storage and base. This diagram shows an Anubias cross-section. Notice the thick, horizontal section above the roots, the rhizome. It must remain exposed to water flow to breathe and absorb nutrients. The fatal beginner mistake is burying this rhizome into the gravel. The plant suffocates, rots, and dies. The correct bulletproof installation method is to bypass the substrate entirely. You physically attach the rhizome directly to hardscape elements, like a rock or a piece of driftwood, using aquarium-safe superglue or tying it with thread. Master this one rule of keeping the rhizome exposed, and these specific plants become virtually indestructible. Plant placement serves the specific physical resting and hiding requirements of the betta. To succeed, you must map the tank based on how the fish actually moves through space. In a standard tank, optimal placement for Anubias nana is the midground, attached to central driftwood. Its broad, thick leaves act as a sturdy, natural hammock. Long-finned beas get exhausted easily, actively using these leaves to rest near the surface to gulp air. The trade-off with Anubias is its extremely slow growth rate. Because it grows so slowly, it won't rapidly absorb toxic fish waste from the water the way faster-growing plants do. That's where our background strategy comes in. By attaching Java fern to tall background mesh or vertical pieces of wood, you fill out the rear of the tank. The height and volume of the Java fern create a dense jungle canopy. This physically breaks the line of sight across the tank, giving the betta a secure, enclosed hideout that heavily reduces territorial anxiety. There is a specific trade-off to watch for with Java fern. If your water chemistry swings, older leaves may develop black spots or seemingly melt away. But as long as that rhizome is firm, the plant will recover and push out new foliage adapted to your water. Combine the structural Anubias hammock in the middle with the vertical Java fern canopy behind it, and you've engineered a complete three-dimensional architecture entirely focused on betta comfort. With the structure in place, we have to look at the long-term maintenance of this ecosystem. Specifically, we have to deal with the inevitable issue of algae. Because Anubias grows at a sluggish pace, broad leaves sit static under tank lights for weeks. This makes them highly susceptible to a buildup of hard, green spot algae. To counter this, introduce a biological cleanup crew. Shrimp or snails will constantly patrol these broad leaves, grazing on algae to keep the surfaces clean. But there is a biological trade-off here. Bettas are highly predatory. If you drop cherry shrimp into an empty tank, they will quickly become expensive fish food. This is exactly how the dense Java fern canopy we established earlier solves the predation issue. That thick, vertical foliage provides a complex network of tiny hideouts where the shrimp can safely retreat when the betta gets curious. Aside from your cleanup crew, the only other support this system needs is artificial nutrients, specifically a comprehensive all-in-one liquid fertilizer. Because your epiphytes aren't pulling minerals from a nutrient-rich soil bed, you will have to feed the water column directly. A simple once-a-week liquid fertilizer dose gives them the potassium and iron they need to survive. However, overdosing that fertilizer in a low-light setup will backfire. If you pour in more nutrients than these slow-growing plants can actually consume, you end up feeding the algae instead. You have to maintain strict dosing discipline. Balancing a small invertebrate cleanup crew with highly disciplined minimal fertilization completely prevents algae from overtaking these slow-growing surfaces. This keeps the ecosystem stable while the plants gradually establish themselves. This chart maps out exactly what you're signing up for. Traditional high-tech aquascaping yields massive impact, but demands daily effort and high costs. Utilizing glued epiphytes provides the exact same biological impact, but requires almost zero maintenance, placing it in the best quadrant. There is one major trade-off in this highly efficient space. You have to sacrifice the instant gratification of a fully lush tank on day one. You have to accept a slower pace. It takes months of patient waiting for these slow growers to gradually establish their roots and fill out that full forest structure. True ecosystem design isn't about buying the most expensive gear. It's about strategically choosing plants that are biologically adapted to thrive in neglect. The final configuration of your tank depends entirely on your budget and how willing you are to perform manual water changes. Let's look at the first scenario. You're a beginner, you're strictly on a budget, and you want zero complications. The prescription here is simple. Stick exclusively to an Anubias glued to a rock and a Windelov Java fern tied to a piece of driftwood. This minimizes all variables and gives you a durable foundation. The second scenario is for the owner who wants to build a slightly more advanced ecosystem, specifically to drastically reduce how often you have to haul buckets for manual water changes. For this, you supplement your slow-growing epiphytes with a fast-growing floating plant, like Amazon frogbit. Those floaters will rapidly absorb excess nitrates right out of the water column, acting as a powerful biological filter. But floating plants have a strict trade-off. Their rapid growth means you must manually remove a handful of them every week. If you don't, their dense roots and leaves will completely block the surface, starving the Java fern below of the light it needs. By respecting the biological pace of epiphytes and making strategic trade-offs with your setup, any aquarist can engineer a bulletproof natural habitat. The result is a tank that works for you and guarantees a healthier, longer-lived betta.